Well, so you have this disaster in Texas, a complete failure, I would say, of the system in Texas to weatherize itself, to be prepared for any kind of extreme weather event. And then it's a ripple effect that happens as they lose natural gas wells, and then as they rechannel natural gas only into Texas. And then that starts to ripple throughout the rest of the country. It gets to Minnesota, and you have the bigger utilities who are seeing massive price increases that they're paying for natural gas. And then you have the local munis that I'm in some ways most worried about, who are finding that they're burning through literally almost a year's worth of budget in just a few weeks because of these rapidly escalating prices. Well, so then what happens is that gets passed on potentially to consumers. And meanwhile, some natural gas baron in Texas is making millions and millions and millions of dollars right out of the pockets of people in Minnesota and around the Midwest. So I want to get to the bottom of that. We need to protect people. And especially right now, we have tens of thousands of people in Minnesota that are in arrears on their energy bills because of COVID, because they've lost their jobs and they can't pay. And this could be even more devastating for them if these costs hit their utility bill.
And as I understand it, Senator, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because the electricity market is and regulated utilities it's kind of an odd world. It's its own beast, and Texas literally is its own beast, almost completely cut off from federal regulation, given that it's its own grid. If a customer is on a fixed rate plan, the utility company will have to eat the cost if they indeed paid some of these spot market prices, because they really can't pass it on. But for people that are in these you pay what we pay type plans that have become very, very popular, they're showing off their bills, some of them on, and I don't mean showing off in a good way, on social media, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars where it's normally $200. So there could be small utilities that could be at risk, are there not?
That's exactly right. You have small utilities that don't have billions of dollars of reserves to be able to handle this kind of price shock, and yet they have to somehow manage it. And I'm thinking about little utilities in communities in southern Minnesota that are either owned by the local town, or they might be a cooperative kind of utility that are still on the hook to provide energy. And of course we want them to. We just have risen, our temperatures just rose above zero for the first time in 10 days in Minnesota. So this is not a laughing matter. It is very urgent for people. And as I said, with COVID, people have already been struggling in many places to pay their utility bills. So it becomes just a double whammy.
And Texas, famously deregulated, and Texas has been Texas. Somebody asked me, why do they do it? I said, because Texas is going to Texas. That's kind of what they do and kind of what they're famous for. As a senator, do you want to push to try to force Texas onto or connecting to the national power grid? It has some small connections to Oklahoma, New Mexico, and the country of Mexico. But would you like to see an official push to get them entered into the other power markets and interchanges that exist?
Well, look, I think that what's happened in Texas, and as we see its impact around the country, is a great example of how no state is an island when it comes to electricity. If Texas's deregulated, unregulated electricity environment fails, they're going to, there still has to be a way for the lights to go on in Texas. We truly are all connected when it comes to the electric grid. And I think what it does tell me is how important it is as we think about building towards a more resilient, more reliable, less carbon intensive electricity system, that we can do that in ways that would prevent the kind of catastrophe that we've seen in Texas from happening again. You have to plan for these extreme weather events. And that's part of the problem that happened in Texas, right? 10 years ago, they had a weather catastrophe similar to this. They were told that they needed to weatherize their electric grid system in order to protect against a situation like this, and they didn't do it. And so now then they try to blame it on frozen windmills when, frankly, in Minnesota, the wind energy has been working just fine, thank you very much, because we have it weatherized.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.